In this video, we're going to learn about augmented sixth chords. What's an augmented sixth chord? Well, it's a sonority that typically moves into the dominant region by half step above and below the fifth scale degree. Let's approach it from a part writing point of view. So if you're going to have a simple progression, something like this: tonic, subdominant, dominant, tonic. The augmented sixth chord is going to go in the S region, or more broadly, the predominant region. And if we approach the 5 chord via half step above and half step below the fifth scale degree, it'll look something like this. That's right, there's a flat and a sharp together. Notice the interval that occurs between the bass, A flat, and the soprano, F sharp. Take a second and try to figure out what that interval is. That's right, so A to F is a sixth, A flat to F is a major sixth, A flat up to F sharp is larger than a major sixth, making that's right, an augmented sixth. We refer to this chord as an augmented sixth chord because of the interval that's formed by what is the typical behavior of this chord: the flattened sixth scale degree in the bass and the sharp fourth degree in the soprano. Notice the sharp note resolves up, as those tendency tones tend to do, and the flat note falls down. So the augmented sixth resolves outward into the fifth scale degree of the key before resolving to the tonic. We'll get into more of the nitty-gritty here in just a minute, but for now this will suffice. It doesn't matter which type of augmented sixth chord you're going to spell. For now, let's practice the most basic template. That is lay in the bass and fi in the soprano. So let's set up a template, C major, where we have a T, a blank S region, D, T. Looks something like this. Next, you're going to have the upper leading tone to the fifth scale degree. That is lay to so in the bass. It'll look like this. For the soprano, let's make it really easy and start on so. When you move into the S region, or when you're moving into the augmented sixth chord, we're now going to use the leading tone to so. If so is G, the leading tone is F sharp. In the augmented sixth region, then, you have both the upper and the lower leading tone to the fifth scale degree. In solfege, that is lay and fi. In scale degrees, that's flat 6 and sharp 4. Because that F sharp is just sitting there in the soprano, unresolved, you know where it needs to go. It goes to G next. And then you can either remain on G for the last chord or skip down to the consonant third, mi, or E, looking like this. Let's listen to that. First, the Italian sixth. The Italian augmented sixth chord tends to be one of the thinner augmented sixth chords. Its texture is often reserved for maybe only 3 voices, or sometimes if there are 4 or more voices, there'll be extra doublings of the tonic note. So let's use our template that we've already established. And let's have the tenor start on E, the missing note of the opening tonic triad. To spell an Italian augmented sixth, you will always keep your lay in the bass and the fi in the soprano, but this time you're going to add do, or then in this case C, to make it an Italian augmented sixth chord. Now pause the video and take a moment to fill out the rest of the tenor voice. The rest of the voice might look something like this. Let's listen. So to summarize, for the Italian augmented sixth chord with three voices, you have lay and fi creating the augmented sixth, and then the third voice on do. This sonority, though it doesn't stack in our conventional triadic formation, forms the Italian augmented sixth chord. Let's learn the next one, the French augmented sixth chord. The French augmented sixth chord is for four voices. You are going to maintain lay and fi in the outer voices, do in a third voice, and the fourth voice will have re. Keep your template the same. You can see in our augmented sixth chord, lay and fi remain. For four voices, let's start with an alto on E and the tenor on C. Now, think about the two voices that we're adding to the French augmented sixth chord, do and re, or scale degrees 1 and 2. The tenor would make more sense then to maintain do, while the alto can move stepwise down to re. That would look like this. Now take a moment and go ahead and move smoothly into the 5 and the 1 chord. You probably came up with something that looks a lot like this. Now let's listen to it. Let's talk about the German augmented sixth chord, saving the best for last, or the more complicated one for last. The German, like the French, also involves four voices. You're going to keep lay and fi in the outer voices, and in the minor mode, we're going to use do and me, or scale degrees 1 and the naturally occurring flat 3 in the key. If you're in the major mode, however, you're going to use do and re, or sharp 2 in a major mode. I'll explain that here in just a little bit. But let's start with the easiest version, which is the minor mode. So we're going to actually go ahead and switch our template to the parallel minor and use C minor. First, let's look at this. I've done the part writing for us to show us one problem. So we're in C minor, the bass moves 1 German augmented 6 straight into 5 into 1. Now the German augmented sixth chord rarely goes straight to 5, and the reason why is look at the way the bass and the alto move. What's the error there? That's right, parallel fifths. This is a constant problem with the German augmented sixth chord. So for that very reason, we need to change the way we approach the cadence. The German augmented sixth chord frequently moves through the cadential 6/4 before moving into 5 and 1, like this. So let's practice with this template. We've had to extend out the template so that we can account for the cadential 6/4. This should eliminate any problems that we have with parallel fifths between the bass and one of the inner voices. Let's keep our first chord the same, so it looks like this. Now take a moment and spell the German augmented sixth chord. We've got our outer voices lay and fi, and since we're in the minor mode, you need to add do and me. Go ahead and add those voices. It should look like this. Now, go ahead and finish out the rest of this cadence by moving through the cadential 6/4. Your voices probably look like this. Did you forget to raise your leading tone in the 5/7? Surely not. You could also frustrate the leading tone and have the tenor move down to G. Now, I'm going to show you how this works in the major mode. The German augmented sixth is spelled slightly different between a minor mode and a major mode. Basically, we're using an enharmonic equivalent because scale degrees behave a certain way based on their accidental. So if we're in a major mode, the difference between me and re is very different. Me is a flattened scale degree and would insinuate a downward motion. If we use re, however, that scale degree wants to ascend because it's a raised, sharp note. Let's look at it in a major mode. Here's our template. And recall that we have to flatten scale degree 6 again because the natural occurring scale degree is la, not lay. So our bass line should go do, lay, so, and our soprano should go so, fi, so. Let's start our first chord as we have before, with C in the tenor, E in the alto. Now let's use may, just to show what I was talking about. If we use may, that's E flat in the key of C major. Notice between the augmented 6 chord and the cadential 6/4 chord, the alto line goes me, may, me. It's a really hard thing to say, and it's not very idiomatic. Instead, may should go down, but since we're going to a cadential 6/4, we have to raise back up into a major chord. So it would make sense to use re. Look at this progression. Me, re, me. The German augmented 6 chord, whether or not it's spelled with re or may, is going to enharmonically sound the same. However, the function of the scale degrees is different. Let's listen. Let's compare all the augmented 6 chords that we've learned, the Italian, French, and German. All of these have lay in the bass and fi in the soprano. The augmented 6 is then highlighted in the outer voices. For the Italian augmented 6, you add do. In the French augmented 6 chord, you add do and re, gives it this beautiful major second crunch in the middle. For the German augmented 6 chord, there's a minor third or an augmented second in the inner voices. That is C and E flat or do and may, or C and D sharp, do and re. The voice leading of these augmented 6 chords is very straightforward. You must remember the augmented 6 chord serves as a predominant chord that resolves to the dominant chord. The German augmented 6 chord usually resolves first to the cadential 6/4 chord before it goes to the dominant to avoid parallel fifths. Remember that the augmented 6 chords resolve as their tendency tones dictate. That is, sharp notes go up, flat notes go down. Let's practice a couple of these together. On some staff paper, let's try 4 separate chords. An Italian augmented 6 chord in F. Okay, so first let's go ahead and put in our key signature. Next, let's think about the scale degrees lay and fi in the key of F major, or the upper and the lower leading tone to so. In the key of F, so is C, so I want the upper leading tone to be in the bass. That would be a D flat. In the soprano, I want to have the leading tone up to so. So is C, so the leading tone is going to be B natural. To make this an Italian augmented 6, the only other note I need is F. I think I'll put it here in the alto. Now let's write a French augmented 6th in the key of E minor. First, put in your key signature. Think of the note so. In the key of E, so is B natural. I'm going to want to approach B from above and below by half step. So in the bass, half step above B natural, which is lay, is going to be C natural, naturally occurring in the key. So I do not need to put an accidental to make it lay. It's already lay. The leading tone to B is A sharp. This does require an accidental. Put that in the soprano. And for the inner voices, I'm going to need do and re. If I put do down here, re is going to be over an octave above it. So let's switch it. Let's put do in the alto and re in the tenor. There I've got do, re, lay, and fi. Let's listen to it to see if it sounds right. Delicious. Now for A major with the German augmented 6th. Put in your key signature. Think of so. In the key of A, so is E. The upper leading tone to so is lay, which is F natural. The lower leading tone to so, which is E, is going to be D sharp. To make it German, I need do, and because it's major, re. That's going to be A and B sharp, which is enharmonically equivalent to C natural. Remember, we don't want to use C natural here because that's a lowered scale degree. We want to use B sharp. B sharp and do. Let's listen. That's right, it sounds like a major minor seventh chord. Listen again. However, it doesn't resolve like a dominant seventh. Listen to the resolution of this augmented sixth chord. How does it sound like a dominant seventh? Well, let's look at some of the enharmonic equivalents. F, B sharp, A, and D sharp. Suppose you keep the F, natural. And instead of B sharp, let's go ahead and spell it as C natural. Let's keep A, and instead of D sharp, let's spell it as E flat. F, A, C, E flat. This is actually an F7. F7 wants to resolve to B flat, and it would resolve here. The German augmented sixth chord in the key of A major resolves to E before resolving to tonic. So, German augmented sixth resolves by half step to the dominant, E, before resolving to A, where when you enharmonically respell the German augmented sixth chord as a dominant seventh, that makes an F7 chord that resolves to B flat. The resulting chords then are a half step apart. Quite a shocking sonic experience. Let's listen to them back to back. First, the German augmented sixth chord. Now, the German augmented sixth chord enharmonically reinterpreted as an F7 that resolves to B flat. One last one, D minor, German augmented sixth chord. First the key, think of so, which is A. You want to approach it a half step above A, which is B flat, and you want to approach A a half step below, which is G sharp. Remember, you do not have to add an accidental to the bass because lay is already in the key. Then you can add do and may. That's all for today, folks. I hope you've enjoyed learning about augmented sixth chords. We'll be spending lots of time learning how to part write, analyze, and anything else you can think to do with augmented sixth chords. Homework will, of course, follow on Blackboard. Have a great day.